A gunman killed what is now 11 people in a predominantly Asian American community in Monterey Park, California, just outside of Los Angeles. Everyone there was celebrating the Lunar New Year at a dance studio. And we know that at least 10 people were injured, with some still in critical condition. And this also happens to mark the 33rd mass shooting so far this year, and we have not even made it out of January. So there are still a lot of unanswered questions about this shooting, but here is what we know about this horrific event. It was at around 10:22 p.m. local time on Saturday when a gunman opened fire inside of Star Dance Studio, Chinese-owned ballroom dance studio on West Garvey Avenue, less than a block from where a Lunar New Year festival was held. The first day of the two-day festival had just ended. Of the 10 people pronounced dead, which is now 11, as I mentioned, but those 10 were pronounced dead at the scene. 5 were women and 5 were men, the officials said. The wounded victims were rushed to local hospitals in conditions ranging from stable to critical. And the victims were in their 50s and above. Now, another person, as I mentioned, has died earlier in the hospital today, succumbing to their injuries, bringing the total to 11. And the shooter, well, he has been identified as 72-year-old Huu Can Tran, and he's pictured here. And he had apparently been a regular patron at the studio. Now, after the massacre at the Star Dance Studio, well, Tran traveled across town to Alhambra, and he entered another dance studio bringing his weapon. And it was there that a 26-year-old civilian wrestled the gun from Tran. And let's hear from this hero.
When he was looking around the room, it seemed like he was looking for targets, people to harm. My first thoughts was, I was gonna die here. This was it. This is when he started prepping the weapon, and something came over me. I realized I needed to get the weapon away from him. I needed to take this weapon, disarm him, or else everybody would have died. When I got the courage, I lunged at him with both my hands, grabbed the weapon, and we had a struggle. We struggled into the lobby, trying to get this gun away from each other. He was hitting me across the face, bashing the back of my head. I was trying to use my elbows to separate the gun away from him, creating some distance. Finally, at one point, I was able to pull the gun away from him, shove him aside, create some distance, point the gun at him, intimidate him. At this point, I thought he would run away, but he was just standing there contemplating whether to fight or to run away. I really thought I would have to shoot him if he came at me.
This gentleman, Brandon Say, he did his best there and was able to disarm the suspect, but the suspect was able to flee. Tran fled in a white van, and that led to a manhunt across the region. And on Sunday morning, when that van was spotted, according to Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department, Robert Luna, this is what happened. When officers exited their patrol vehicle to contact the occupant, they heard one gunshot coming from within the van. Officers retreated and requested several tactical teams to respond. Then an armored vehicle, well, it blocked the van, and a SWAT team approached and found Tran dead inside from a self-inflicted gunshot wound. Now, the weapon recovered from the van was a magazine-fed semi-automatic assault pistol that had an extended large capacity magazine. This is one of those things that we know are illegal here in California. And although the officials are still not completely sure about the motive, Monterey Park Mayor Henry Lowe suggested that it may have had something to do with his former wife. My understanding is that he may have come because his ex-wife was reveling, celebrating the Lunar New Year, and it sounded like there was a history of domestic violence, which is unfortunate. Now, we know the couple divorced sometime in 2005, but most recently, Tran went to police, alleging that his family had tried to poison him, even though the matter was never investigated because Tran never provided any support. Also, a former friend of Tran said that he had a lot of vendettas against people, and also an acquaintance recalled some troubling history about Tran. This from CNN. Tran often complained at the time that the instructors at the dance hall didn't like him and said evil things about him, the friend remembered, adding Tran was hostile to a lot of people there. Cenk, I know this is just another mass shooting, and there was even one going on right as we were starting the show. How does this hit you?
Well, my wife worked in that neighborhood. And so, as I've said many times on the show, eventually a shooting is going to be in your neck of the woods. And don't be surprised, it's definitely coming. A mass shooting of some sort will be somewhere near you. And it will be because of guns. And everybody will tell you, no, it's mental health or butter knives or doors or windows and other absurdities. They do all that to protect the gun manufacturers who pay their bills. And the gun manufacturers love shootings like this because then everybody worries and they go and buy more guns. So in this case, was it mental health issues? Well, I mean, the guy doesn't sound like he was a very pleasant guy, does he? And he murdered 11 people and shot all those folks. So obviously he had massive issues. But I got news for you. A lot of people have massive issues. And we're not alone. Most of the world has the same exact mental health problems that we do. Do they have mass shootings like this all the time? No, they don't. There's one reason. Because we give guns to everybody. Who cares? In fact, there's more guns in the country than human beings. That is insane. And like we live in it, so it's like when they ask a fish, how's the water? He says, what water? When they ask us about, why do you guys have all of these guns? Are you guys lunatics? No one else in the world does this. And whoever has more guns has more deaths from guns. Everybody knows that. It's a fact. We'll show you some stats in a minute. But it's also super obvious, right? And it's harder to kill people with a rope or a towel or whatever conservatives imagine that people get killed with. So everyone knows why this happens. It happens uniquely in America, and it's because we allow everyone to have weapons, any kind of weapons. It really is, it's literally insane. As a country, we've lost our minds. So again, when it happens in your neighborhood, don't get surprised, don't think you're special. No, everyone is getting killed out here. While the right-wingers have fake concerns like Muslims taking over Tulsa, Oklahoma, or transgender people taking over bathrooms or high school sports teams, all these imagined things that you're supposed to be afraid of. Oh my God, a drag queen show, be afraid. Meanwhile, we're literally getting massacred every single day, and they're not at all concerned about it. By the way, us and our kids. So this is the 5th mass shooting this month. That would be more than a lot of countries have in a decade. We've had it in 1 month. If you think it's an aberration, it's not an aberration. Last year, was the 2nd highest number of mass shootings in American history. And this is by the most stringent definition. Not just 4 people shot, but 4 people killed and not including the shooter. So this is the most conservative definition of a mass shooting, and 42 of them happened last year, right? So what is that? That's more than 3 a month. So almost at about 1 a week of a massacre, literal massacre. And we've gotten used to it in America. We're like, oh yeah, oh, another massacre. Oh, it happened to you and your family this time. Okay, yeah, it's normal. Don't pretend it isn't normal now. It's definitely normal. Don't pretend that there's a bigger danger in America than lunatics having guns, because there isn't. It's empirical, it's obvious, it's overwhelming. But we have to worry about the feelings of right-wingers. Oh, they have such sensitive feelings. If you don't let people murder each other nonstop, their feelings will be hurt. Oh my God, my Second Amendment rights. You have, unless you're in a well-regulated militia, you have no Second Amendment rights. The Second Amendment is very, very, very clearly for a well-regulated militia. Can you not read? And of course you can read, and of course you know you're lying. Oh, you've read that amendment. You know it doesn't say that anybody can have a gun, let alone a semi-automatic weapon, etc. right? Assault rifles, it never says anything about that. They never contemplated that. But you think, well, I know, but I like the pretty little lies that we tell ourselves, because I like guns, it makes me feel safe, I like to go shooting. Sometimes people, sometimes animals. Lately, the Republicans have been saying vermins. They're very worried about vermins. That's why we need these guns. Oh, by the way, you and your family will be murdered, but we're worried about having the right to shoot a vermin. Okay, oh, by the way, to be fair to the Republicans, they also say we want to protect against government tyranny, so we also need the weapons to murder cops and military if they come for us. So this is the country we live in. So in this case, it could have been me and my family. We were celebrating the Chinese New Year last night. We didn't happen to be in Monterey Park, but we easily could have been. And next time it could be you. And that's because Republicans make money, cold hard cash from gun manufacturers, and they literally don't mind you dying so they can get paid. That's just the facts.
Yeah, and that's exactly what, unfortunately, as a society, it seems we are so incredibly willing to tolerate. Despite the fact that we can't even go celebrate Lunar New Year, we can't go to school, we can't go to classes. I felt so much safer when we were in the midst of a pandemic and people were dying from a virus that could not be seen than I feel when I go out on the street nowadays, just by virtue of the fact that guns are everywhere. And they're not well regulated in any form or fashion. And as you've noted, Cenk, it's been bastardized, that Second Amendment. And it has to the benefit of legislature who get to fill their coffers from gun manufacturers. And the thing is this is completely and totally, without a doubt, a uniquely American issue. And the right wingers want us to think that it has nothing to do with guns. They love that mantra of guns don't kill people kill people. Well, guess what? Guns, people use guns and kill people at a very high rate. And that's something that is, again, very unique to the United States because of our access with guns. We have the higher per capita rate of gun ownership in the world. In fact, the highest. The United States is the only nation in the world where civilian guns outnumber people. There are around 120 civilian-owned guns per 100 American residents. And the next closest country is Yemen, with a gun ownership rate of 53 guns per 100 people. And the thing is, it's unsurprising that the US has the highest firearm homicide rate in the so-called developed world. As we know, in 2019, the number of US deaths from gun violence, it was about 4 per 100,000 people. That's 18 times the average rate of other developed countries. And the rate of deaths from gun violence in the US, well, it's 8 times greater than in Canada, 22 times greater than in the European Union, and 23 times greater than Australia. Nearly 53 people are killed each day by a firearm in the US. And also we happen to have home to 4% of the world's population, but we account for 44% of global suicides by firearm. That was at least in 2019. Who knows if that number will unfortunately increase. And the thing is, it's not like there's anything we can't do about it. We know that other countries have actually been successful in implementing solutions. This from CNN. Less than 2 weeks after Australia's worst mass shooting, that was in 1996, the federal government implemented a new program banning rapid fire rifles and shotguns and unifying gun owner licensing and registrations across the country. In the next 10 years, gun deaths in Australia fell by more than 50%. They are seeing measurable change because they're taking meaningful action. That is something the US doesn't want to do. Cenk.
We have 18 times the number of gun deaths because we have so many more guns. This is not remotely complicated. Anyone who tells you that it is, they're lying to you because they like their guns or they make money off of guns. And so I like fantasy football, but my hobby doesn't murder people. So you should look into yourself and see, are you comfortable with it? Well, you know what? I got a couple of rodents around the bend there, and so I like taking pot shots at them. Well, because of that so-called right, lots of people, thousands of people are going to be murdered in America. We know that if we take reasonable regulation as other countries do, we would have 1/20th the number of deaths. But Republicans say, no, I want 20 times the number of deaths because I like my guns so much. These are stone cold facts. So whether you catch feelings over these facts is up to you. And look, I'm going to say the last couple of things here. Republicans say, oh, mental health issues. And then what do? They vote down any bill that would address mental health because they're goddamned liars. And if the mainstream media had any integrity, they would call the truth and a lie. Every time you hear Republicans talking about mental health issues, they have almost all voted against funding mental health issues. So total and utter liars. They don't care about this issue at all. The Democrats and the Republicans are oftentimes very similar, especially on economic issues. We're about the only show in the country that tells you that all the time. We criticize Democrats all the time, but not on this one. This one, because the facts show you the Democrats are pretty good on this. The Republicans are the worst people on earth. Okay, and how about this idea of, well, is the gun legal or illegal? Who cares? You can just drive 5 minutes anywhere in America and get you can get almost any gun you want perfectly legally. You just go to a red state. They'll sell you a bazooka. Soon they'll sell you nukes. Because, we gotta make money from guns and men feel inadequate, we need guns. Okay, well then this is the massacres you have because of that decision you made. You made that decision and this is the consequences. We bring you facts. How you feel about those facts is up to you. But we have, as a country, decided, by the way, for the rest of us, that we're not gonna do anything about it. Because the feelings of Republicans are more important than our fellow citizens' lives. So do the Democrats fight back as hard as they need to? No. Do they call them monsters dripping in blood? No. Okay, no, that would offend their goddamn colleagues' feelings. 11 people are dead there now. But we wouldn't want to offend the feelings and sensitivities of goddamn Republican senators. Okay, so last thing is the hero. If you notice, not only was he brave enough to go fight that guy and make sure he didn't kill anyone else, but once he had a clean shot at him, he didn't take it. There's not a single cop in the country who would have been that heroic. First of all, without a weapon, to go attack a guy with a weapon. We had over 400 cops sitting outside of Uvalde, armed to the teeth, and they wouldn't go in because there was one guy with a weapon in there. You think they would have gone in unarmed like this hero? No way. Now you say that every cop in the country is a coward? No, of course not. But do we train them to be cowards? Yes. We train them to be 10,000 times more cowardly than that hero you saw. And then if they got a hold of the gun and the guy they were in a life and death struggle, do you think a cop would have resisted shooting that guy? No, boom, he would have been dead in a second. Now he wound up killing himself and I got no sympathy for that lunatic. But look at that guy who chose restraint and who didn't want to kill another human being, even after he could have been killed by him just a second ago. I love that guy. That's the best of us. I wish people in power had 1% of the integrity that he has.
That would be remarkable. But instead, Republicans collect coins and we collect coffins.
Thanks for watching the Young Turks. I really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.